So let's take a moment now to get settled, to center ourselves, and to let go of the events of this day, and to begin to enter the deeper, sacred space within ourselves. Now let us imagine that we are joining together, sacred heart to sacred heart, with every other person on this call right now. Now let us imagine that we are joining together in a circle with a light or flame or fire in the center. Imagine a spoke of light coming from the center of the circle to your heart. And for each person on the call tonight or listening in after this evening. Now we are connected, sacred heart to sacred heart. Now let us sense our intentions. We listen to one another with compassion and curiosity. We ask for what we need and offer what we can. We deepen our connection with one another and the divine. May this sharing serve us, our communities, and the planet. And so it is. So, my name is Sally Ekaireb, for those that didn't hear before. And this evening I had chosen the topic of love, truth, and principles. And what I'd like to do is to focus on how my faith in the triad of love, truth, and principle has brought me clear direction and harmony during this time of many transitions. And it seems that as I've talked with people over the year, that I'm not the only one who is going through a lot of transitions. And so I thought that this could be helpful to other people. Our spirit gathering will give us an opportunity to share about our experiences with the triad of love, truth, and principles, and how they support us in our life journey. Perhaps people will have other related experiences that they would like to share about as well. So over the last year, my life has gone through many transitions, including a move from New York City, where I've been living for over 30 years, and relocating my family and business to North Carolina. During this time, often the situations were unclear and sometimes overwhelming, and there were many challenges, disappointments, upsets, as well as surprises and magical outcomes. And what I've always kind of known but discovered even further is that moving into the unknown has always been frightening to me. However, moving into the unknown has been a great teacher of the illusion of fear of the unknown. For when I focused on the qualities and virtues of love, truth, and principle, guidance in the form of a knowingness was always present. And it was really a beautiful discovery for me of realizing that the unknown is really an illusion for me, because on a certain level, I do know. It's just that I don't always access that knowledge. And so for me, working with the truth and love and principle has been a way for me to actually access into this level of all-knowing. When I began to focus on love, truth, and principle, I started to reflect on my understanding of these words. My intellectual mind could define them, yet I reflected on how there was something beyond these definitions, something that Mary Baker Eddy in her book Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures write about. She defines God as follows: God, the great I am, the all-knowing, all-seeing, all-acting, all-wise, all-loving, and eternal. Principle, mind, soul, spirit, life, truth, love, all substance, intelligence. She distinguishes mind from our thinking brain in her following definition: mind, not that which is in man, but the divine principle, or God, of whom man is the full and perfect expression. From this and the teaching of Roselight, which I've received through Bishop Amy Skeesis as she channels Athabascar, I've learned about the energetic vibration of emotions, virtues, and thoughts. And I began questioning how all of this relates to Christ consciousness. And how can I reflect and resonate Christ consciousness more fully than I sometimes briefly seem to get to? And as I mentioned earlier, I have moved to the beautiful mountain area of western North Carolina. And one afternoon, as I was driving through the mountains, I had this realization. I was reflecting on how the Christian Science reading kept repeating passages from the Bible that quoted Jesus saying, "Be ye perfect." I had always interpreted that as live perfectly. Be perfect in how you act and think. Follow the Ten Commandments. On this day, it dawned on me that all I needed to do was be. I am perfect. I am the full and perfect expression of the divine principle. The highway opened up, the sky met the mountains, and I felt one with this beautiful, harmonious space and flow. Then one of my life situations of the past year pressed into my thoughts. My rational mind wanted my attention. So I thanked it for sharing and reflected on how I might create a tripod using love, truth, and principle to address this problem. Because I was dealing with an unprincipled individual, it became clear that the only recourse I needed to take was to complete our dealings with total honesty and then sever our relationship. I let go of needing to report it, confronting him about things he had done that I felt were, shall we say, kind of slippery or shady in nature. I realized that the conversations I had been having in my mind were not an expression of that kind of consciousness which I wanted to connect with and to resonate. And I became clear that if I could maintain a higher vibration, one of principle, that somehow the universe would take care of the rest. And so that's what I did. In dealing with relationship issues, I find that using the triad with focusing on love is very supportive. Recently, I had an altercation with my daughter, and I had to really work at not getting emotionally entangled in the situation. Rather, I focused on love, the resonance of love, and what it is to hold and radiate love, as well as using energy tools that I have developed over the years. It was an intense interaction. We were almost asked to leave the restaurant. It was so intense. And there was a kind of breakdown that I felt before the breakthrough occurred. But we did get there. And I was so grateful that I had a sense of what it is to feel, experience, and be one with infinite spirit through this whole process. I think what for me has been such a shift is that I have really tried to experience these on more of a metaphysical level instead of an intellectual level of holding vibration in parts of my body, using organs to hold vibration, things of that nature, as I have tried to, as I say, work towards what I consider to be like the Christ consciousness, this kind of aspiration to move to a higher plane of thinking, emoting, just vibrating, and being able to let go of these other thoughts, feelings, actions, which really impede me from being the expression that I have the capacity to be. And so what I'd like to do at this point is to open the group for sharing. We're meeting as a conversation council, and this means that you may speak at any time, only taking care to let the current speaker finish before you begin your sharing. If you choose to respond to something said earlier by someone in the group, please express your thoughts in an experiential context and not as advice. So please, you're welcome to enter the dialogue.
Hi, Sally. It's Amy.
Hi, Amy.
I really liked the image of you driving in the car and the mountain and the sky meeting and that oneness with everything. That really spoke to my heart. Thank you for sharing that. I got a great visceral, vibrational resonance with you on that. So thank you.
You're welcome.
That's what I wanted to say. I'm muting again.
Hello, Sally.
Hi, Thomas.
Thomas Ayers here. I have one of my curious questions. Like Amy, thank you again for sharing some of your experiences with your triad. And in a certain kind of way, it might have been easier in your experiences with your daughter than driving on the road, because you have to quick come back to the road and the wheels. Come back wherever you are. But in the restaurant, I think the words you used, there was a kind of a breakdown before, then there was a breakthrough. And I'm wondering, in those moments with Rachel, was there a sense of experiencing the I am in you and the I am in her?
I would say it wasn't so much the I am in her, I am in me, almost like as separation, but kind of to give you a fuller depiction of what went on is I was just in San Francisco because she is starting medical school, and she is having a lot of emotion about starting this new venture, and I basically have seen throughout our life history that whenever she embarks in these separation time periods, there is this incredible ambivalence and fear and other things that become part of the process. And I was not as sensitive to that as I might have been, and really was more focused on what were my needs in the situation. And so our altercation was about the fact that I stated what my needs were and that I was going to do what I needed to do, and that this is what I was going to do for her. And the breakdown was as we were both kind of holding on to our positions. It was like she was right in her position, and I was right in my position. And, you know, and it literally, I think, took the waitress coming over and letting us know that we were disturbing other customers to have us kind of take a deep breath and recompose ourselves. And, you know, I think at this point, as I said, what was helpful to me is, you know, channeling some things like, you know, the vibration of joy, and literally calling upon myself, what is that feeling that I have as I feel love for my daughter, and conjuring up that emotional, mental, energetic state and being with it, and really holding that instead of my kind of intellectual, moral position. And as I did that, even though we continued to talk, it was almost like being in one of our radiant reflective triangles. For those who know what that is, that it's, you know, being in what I would call a cloud of energy that allows things to synergize in a way that doesn't happen when these lower vibrations are more predominant. And as I say, from that point, there was this shift, and there was a real feeling of coming together in that place of love, and how we all kind of merged into it. It wasn't I love you sitting across the table. It was just we are love. And slowly it kind of segued down into the conversational level so that we were not talking at each other, but we were able to actually talk to each other, listening and responding and acknowledging and getting to the point where we could actually, get up, leave the restaurant, and give each other a huge hug and really have it be a very heartfelt hug. And, an hour earlier when we walked in, it was like there was an energetic wall that was as strong as cement. And that dissipated. And, as I can say, I attribute that to connecting with this feeling of love and being in that oneness where it's like the she that she is kind of dissolved into the oneness that we are. And it was a really beautiful experience to share. So does that answer your question?
It was just an invitation to explore, yes. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We have about 30 more minutes on the call. Lots of time to chat.
Is there something that you would like to bring up for discussion, topic, etc.?
Not at the moment. I'll pass.
Okay. Well,
we'll see what bubbles up. We got a while to go.
Well, Sally, it's Amy again.
Hi, Amy.
Hi. I was going to say something, but before I do, Judith, do you want to step in? Do you have anything, or shall I go ahead? I think she's probably muted. Okay, I'll go ahead.
In order to unmute, you only need to push the star and then the 6, and that will unmute your line.
Okay, so I'll go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
It's so interesting to me that you were talking about your conversation with your daughter and what happened, because just a couple days ago, I had a very similar conversation with my son. And it was very intense. He had something he wanted to say that was very difficult. And he obviously, had a lot of anxiety about telling me. He thought it might upset our relationship. And, I did just exactly, very similar to what you did. I felt the energy getting wonky vibrationally, and then I just went into my center, and as if I were in a triangle, I just went into a very receptive space of active, compassionate listening.
Mm-hmm.
And I just really listened to what he had to say, and I just was really present. And after he finished, I said, thank you. Thank you for saying what you needed to say. I really appreciate that you honor this relationship enough to say these difficult things, to have the courage to do that. And he had been expecting a really different kind of vibrational response. And I felt him at first being, cautious, but like, oh wow, this is working okay, And as he met that energy with a relaxation, this really deep love just welled up out of me, and I started speaking from that I am place in me. And I said, I rejoice. And everything I said, I prefaced with, I rejoice. I rejoice in the love and concern you're showing. I rejoice in our intimacy, that we can be emotionally close this way and speak about these difficult things. I rejoice about your discernment and your incredible insight to bring something this deep up between us. And I just kept saying, I rejoice. And I just kept praising and acknowledging what was unfolding in the space between us. And I was really, really in a reverent state as I said these things. And it was an amazing connection. I felt like we were these two pieces of God looking at each other and vibrating together, pulsing. Very intense energy. And it really was a shift from a very judgmental, controlling space into that space. And it just happened a couple days ago. And we were on the phone. We weren't face-to-face. But it was a really beautiful experience. And I felt like by meeting judgment with love, I got to have some kind of a liberation. Instead of feeling hurt or any other kind of negative impact that it might have had with me, I really saw the beauty of what happened and what he brought. And it wasn't like fake. It was really genuine appreciation and love and reverence and respect. That was the main thing, was so much respect came from me for him and for what we were learning. And we got to this place where both of us comprehended in our conversation, in our dialogue, that we were both learning the same lesson at the same time. And we could verbalize it and resonate with it. And it felt so sacred and amazing to have that experience. It sounds an awful lot like what happened with you and your daughter. So I just wanted to share that. I'm done.
It's beautiful.
Sorry, I'm not done. Anyway, I realized afterwards when I was reflecting on it that it was that conscious volitional choice I made to shift vibration that changed the whole arc of that experience for me, and I think for us. It was a very profound thing. I mean, it was like bringing triangle work, and I've done this in other conversations, outside of the triangle space, but this was a really clear vibrational shift from my choice to come into relationship from more of that God-centered place. It just changed everything. And it was very potent. It was a very potent embodiment experience for me of that love. And it came from that choice. Just like you said, I didn't want to embody where that could have gone. I didn't want to go there. It wasn't a choice to not go there. So I'm just really resonating with your story tonight. I'm done now.
So I think what I'd like to do is open this up a little bit further into my thoughts in this area because, as I say, for me, a lot of it has been how do I cope with some of the stuff that life is serving up right now. And, the tools are so wonderful when I can look at, working with these, what I would call resonances. And it keeps coming back to me, this concept of what is Christ consciousness. What is it that I'm working towards? And, to me, a lot of it is about developing what I would call like a virtue consciousness. It's like, am I expressing the virtues of truth? Am I speaking my truth when I am in relationship, whether it's with my daughter or somebody else? And really becoming conscious of what the effect is when I don't. And, what is the consequence when there's dishonesty going on, or if I'm not, operating according to the principles that I feel are appropriate in the situation. And then what is it to come from a position of love, to, hold different attributes of, compassion and caring. I love the quality of listening that you described, Amy, that, moving into that state can completely shift me, because I can get into my rational, emotional mode and, argue with the best of them. And yet the reality is I have an incredible capacity to listen and to really, really get people. And sometimes I shut that down. So as I have been, really down here and living a more relaxed life and not at the New York City pace that I had been at for so many years, it just allows me to kind of reflect and, I get up in the morning and go pull weeds in my garden and, there's just a kind of quietness that is so wonderful to have in my life these days. And I don't know, exactly where to take this, except that, even when I'm gardening, it's really about, am I being that reflection, that be ye perfect, that I know I have the capacity to be, just as everyone has the capacity to be. So I'm going to put down the talking stick, as they say, and see if there are other people. We still have 15 minutes. So there is plenty of time if anyone has anything they wish to add.
I guess it's Amy again. I'd just like to add that I'm grateful for your bringing this topic to us tonight. I think you're really onto something, and I'm glad that we focused our awareness here tonight and we joined together around this topic, so thank you.
Thank you.
I'm done.
What I'd like to do is take a few minutes now to just have a quiet meditation period before we start the checkout and closing. So why don't we take about 2 or 3 minutes just to be in our quiet meditation. And now what I'd like to do is to invite each person to comment on what stays in their heart and mind as they leave. For me, I'd like to hold in my heart and my mind the visceral experience that I've had of our group in connection as this program has gone on, and the energy and the circle And so I'd like to take that with me as I leave. Is there anyone else that would like to leave a comment?
It's Amy. Oh, go ahead. Okay, it's Amy, and my comment would be just that I really rejoice in the fellowship of coming together and reflecting together and sharing together. I feel very grateful that we do this, and it's very nourishing and satisfying to talk about. It's nourishing for me to talk about embodiment practices this way, real life expressing of divine love. So thank you. I'm done.
Sally, this is Thomas.
Hello?
You can hear me okay?
Yes.
Well, for me, this is a practical communion. And another way of talking about it is that this is, for me, a direct experience of the I am, our practical communion together. So thank you for hosting this. Like Amy said, it's just wonderful to be in this space. So thank you.
Thank you.
It's Amy again. I just want to really acknowledge Dorothy Blackmere as being a person in whose presence I had this same experience of practical communion. She was one of the two founding bishops of Tzaddi, and when I finally got to have more direct relationship with founding bishops Amy and Dorothy, Amy was already pretty elderly and on her way out. She had a long, slow decline mentally. And Amy was really powerful presence and very vibrant in that higher vibration as well. But for some reason tonight, I'm just remembering Dorothy, her daughter. And, if we were talking about the most mundane things, we would have Light Center director meetings, and she was the director of a Light Center out in Colorado, even as she had retired from being bishop. You would have this really strong experience of this expression of divine love. I mean, she just was so loving, genuinely loving and concerned for others. There's something I just want to acknowledge her memory, and Amy as well, as being really great examples of this principle that we're talking about tonight. That's me. I'm done.
Thank you. Yes, it is so wonderful to be present when people are embodying that divine love. And I truly believe that we have the capacity to continuously expand our capacity to hold that love. And so with that thought, I'm going to close. and I'd like to thank you for joining us for this Spirit Gathering teleconference. The call may be archived as an MP3 at www.tzaddi.org. Phone access to the recording of this call is available until next month's call. For playback of the recording, dial 712-432-1085. Access code 990322 #. We hope you'll join us for our next Spirit Gathering on Tuesday, October 21st. We always gather on the third Tuesday of the month. These calls are hosted by Tzaddi, an interspiritual metaphysical organization founded in California in 1964. Tzaddi welcomes, nurtures, and supports people in celebrating and more directly experiencing their relationship with the loving presence of the divine. Our programs are open to people of any race, color, or national or ethnic origin. Visit www.tzaddi.org to learn more. We will now close with thanks and a blessing. Thanks to Tzaddi founders Amy Keyes and Dorothy Blackmere. Thanks to all of you who have been part of our community tonight. And thanks to the divine who support us always, even when we are not aware of it. Thomas, may I call on you to give us a short blessing to close the evening?
Am I on now? Can you hear me, Sally?
Yes, I can.
Okay. I'm not quite sure about my mute button here.
I know.
May the divine bless you and keep you. May the divine make its face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the divine uplift its countenance within you and give you peace.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Good night, all.
Good night, Sally. Thank you.
And everybody, thank you.
Good night, Amy. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night, Amy.